Hey, it's Carrie from Wrap Your Head Around Silks. This is the Expecting Aerialist podcast, now with the Digital Network. How's it going, guys? Thank you so much for tuning in. Before we get started, lots of things always happening with Wrap Your Head Around Silks. Roll it out. We meet every Tuesday and Thursday, 7 p.m. Pacific, to foam roll our aerial problems away. This has changed my practice so much. I am no longer in chronic pain. I figured out a way to maintain my aerial body. I would love to see you. We do Zoom, we gossip, we chat. I'm able to focus in on your problems because it's still a pretty small class, and I'd love to have you there. Please go to the show notes to sign up. And if you wanted to do any of the other resources that I have on my website, I have a full comprehensive beginner to intermediate silks course, especially if you're kind of out there teaching yourself on a home rig or something like that. A lot of guidance for you guys. 12 modules. It touches everything. So that might be great for you. Also, we have aerial rehab, which is for postpartum, post-injury, post-surgery, meant to be the bridge between PT and your favorite aerial class. So check that out. Of course, I have a free mini course if you want to just get to know my style. All right, guys, today we have JB. I'm going to let you say your name because I will for sure butcher it. But I have to say, I'm really, really happy that I don't plan these things. Also because that's more work, obviously, for this mama. But I kind of went with what she was talking about, and she dived into aerial identity, and it was fascinating. She's also the creator of @ILoveClimbs on Instagram, so you might have seen her page there. You might have shared with it. You might have been reposted. JB, thank you for the brain explosion over here that I had. I can't wait for you guys to meet her. Let's get started. JB, how old are your kids now?
They are 14 and 17.
Okay, so you're in a whole different struggle bus than me.
Yeah. I don't struggle anymore. No, I'm just
okay.
I'm
Well,
just kidding.
Teenage struggle, right?
Yeah, every age has a thing. I mean, and it, doesn't stop with childhood. So, but yes, they're old, and it's definitely different than...
JB, if you could introduce yourself to the audience, full name, where you live, a little bit about your family, although we've started that a little bit about your practice, and then I will jump in.
Okay. Well, I am JB Naufel, and I live in Los Angeles. And well, I am an aerialist. What am I doing? I've been doing aerial for a long time. And as a student, I would say for the most of it. But maybe I'm trying to think time, maybe 6 or 7 years ago. I started teaching, which was something that I didn't really consider. I had such amazing coaches that I really just had a really high standard for like what teacher would be, and I just wasn't sure that was... I didn't really think of myself in that same light because I don't know, I was just constantly learning. I didn't really have an understanding of what I was doing this for. I didn't set out to learn for any specific reason. So I didn't ever really ask myself, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? I mean, I would think about it, but it was kind of that's a big question for me. So I just kind of moved on, and I just kept training, and and then people around me, I think, watching what they were doing with their training, was putting kind of ideas or questions in my mind, kind of like forcing myself to think about things that I guess, was avoiding, because I really just enjoyed training and learning, and maybe the pressure of for what, was kind of scary. And so I just kind of avoided that for a really, really long time. Um, I I had a lot of distractions or excuses or, um, kind of reasons why I'm not gonna think about that right now. So that just kind of went on for, I mean, it's been a long time. I started 20 years ago. So
Let me ask you, JB, let me ask you. So you were obviously a mom for the last 17 years. So did your life look like? You were momming, you were training aerial, not necessarily for a particular goal. Did you have like a day job, or did those two things take up all your time?
I didn't really work a lot. I was an arborist, before I started training, aerial. So I had like a little bit of leftover arborist stuff, that I could do, but mostly I was not working. Um, I was doing a ton of training though. My son, he's going to be 18 soon. He started school when he was 3 years old, and he was with me. I just took him with me, um,
Yeah.
to my classes. I mean, and I traded, with him. I traded babysitting for, like the next class. Basically, that's kind of how I met the babysitter. Was I asked. I put up a flyer at the studio, who wants to babysit my kid, and then I'll pay for your next class, because there were two classes back to back. And so I met his babysitter like that, and that arrangement worked out really nicely for me.
And what studio were you at?
That was at Hollywood Aerial Arts.
Okay, so you were like kind of like back in the day with I know she knows my really good friend Tanya even better than me, like many years more. I only became close to Tanya like 7 years ago.
Yes, Tanya was my first teacher when Hollywood Aerial Arts was in Hollywood. Um, and yeah, I love Tanya. I owe a lot of this to Tanya.
Well, that's lovely that Tanya and Ray allowed a kid in this space too.
Yeah, yeah, they did. I mean, that was never an issue at all. And I mean, I was pretty conscious of, my so my son, I mean, up until he was 3, I mean, he got, active, and he wasn't gonna just sit and hang out with me. So, but they had an outdoor area, and we had a van, and so they would spend, like, time in the van and time in the back area. And yeah, it was pretty idyllic. It worked out really nice. And then he started school when he turned 3. And then about, uh, well, 6 weeks later, really, really soon after he started school, I I realized I was pregnant. And
Hmm.
so I called the babysitter again, and I was like, well, get ready. I'm going to bring you another one. So I did the same thing with my daughter. She was in the studio, and basically sat with me more, through the classes and everything. But yeah, Tanya and Ray, they were really fine with it. And I mean, really, because of that, I was able to continue to train and, just nothing changed that much. And I guess that's kind of the way I'm more familiar with learning. That might have also been why I wasn't asking myself these questions, because I was also very busy with them. And I just didn't really think, I didn't really, I thought it was kind of a long way off anything that I could think about professionally. Um, I felt like it was too far away to consider it really.
JB, you consider yourself a professional aerialist now, though, right?
I do now that I teach. I mean, ever since I started teaching, then I would, if somebody were, ask, what do you do? Now I just say I'm an aerialist. Before, I went through a lot of that kind of thinking, because when I stopped doing arboriculture, um, and somebody would say, what do you do? Or that's a kind of a loaded question. And in some countries or in some cultures, it's kind of like, I don't know, it's a little almost rude. Like, we you get to know someone before you start inquiring, how they make a living, or what they do with their time. And that was a kind of a big deal for me before I became a mother. That question that people ask each other, just
It's so American.
it
Yeah.
is, and it's
Yeah.
and when you don't have a solid answer, it's hard. But it also got me thinking a lot about how to answer that question, and what do they actually want. They want to know, you want to know about me. You don't really care how I make my money, or maybe you do. So I was hesitant to, I didn't call myself an aerialist like for a very long time. I would say, well, I train aerial, and I would just talk about what I do with my time. But um, I felt like I hadn't earned it. I'm an aerialist. I still might question that as like my answer, because um, I'm not making enough money to like qualify that as a I don't know. I take some, but mostly I think that it's a fair response, because that's, my mind is filled with that. My time is filled with that to a degree, that like that is a giant important part of my life. So that's the answer they're looking for, I suppose.
JB, you are fascinating because my bean, who's like did aerial since she was a little baby, she calls herself an aerialist. And then she calls herself a dancer because she's taken dance class. I call all of my students aerialists because they do aerial. So it's just fascinating because obviously you've gone through so much of your 20 years going back and forth. And I think that so many people don't do that. And I think that there's something wonderful about that, even though it sounds slightly tortured, because you're giving respect to the art form, whereas a lot of people, like my bean, she's like, I do aerial, I'm an aerialist, so.
I think it's a dangerous quality that we have, or I don't know, quality. It's a dangerous habit, um, to name yourself, I guess, because for me, when I was growing up, I was an artist. I did fine art, and I would be referred to as an artist, and I didn't think much about it until I started working as an artist, as a fine artist, and I didn't really like that. I didn't, and then I, and then I, and then I stopped even wanting to do my own art, fine art. painting, different. I did a lot of different kind of art, but say I was painting and I stopped really wanting to paint, and then suddenly, if my job isn't art related and my hobbies aren't art related, what does that even mean? I'm an artist, so if I'm not an artist, then what am I? And I mean, I guess everyone goes through this. If you refer to yourself as something that you do and then you no longer do it, then what are you? And that can be kind of I said dangerous. It's just, it can be painful and confusing, and I'm not sure it really matters. I think we put a lot of uh, weight on that, and it's a little heavy, and and if you don't have it, then it's something big is missing.
Mm.
um so yeah, I feel a little bit, I guess, because I did that when I was much younger and like lost that identity. um I'm like
You
kind of,
hesitate to put it on yourself again because if you lose it, it becomes
yeah.
harder to let go of that identity.
Yeah, and it also does leave out a lot of other things in my life that I might not spend as much time doing, but are, important to me. I mean, I still call myself an arborist. I am a certified arborist and I keep my certification going. So I'm continuing to be certified, even though I don't really work very much as an arborist. But I suppose if I didn't have this, qualification, would I call myself an arborist? I don't know. I suppose I'm holding on to this, certificate, and just, so I can. I don't know, because then there's also being good at the thing you call yourself,
Yeah.
and I think, an art, with an art form that's not as clear, good or not good, but with something like science and knowledge that's a little bit clearer. Like, am I a good arborist? Because I'm not doing a ton of work uh, anymore. So I'm like, I don't have as much experience doing it anymore. But so I don't know. That's a very big question. That's a big, that you know, what we call ourselves. That's a big subject.
Yeah, so you're talking about identity. This is identity and all the complexities around it. See, JB, this is why I do not plan these conversations
All
because
right, this is
had
about
I
segments.
yeah, had I planned it, well, no, I mean, the expecting aerialist, yes, it is prenatal, postpartum, but it's a million other things it's about, which is why if you're, 13 years postpartum, you're still completely like on point for this podcast because it's about our journey in aerial and motherhood, and that's what
Yeah.
you're in. Okay, I got to go back because that went to the left and I'm pulling it back to the center really quick because I want to tie all these things together because this is so fascinating to me. So you're at Hollywood Aerial Arts, and for the listeners out there who don't know of this studio, it was a bit of a legend because not legend like people don't know about it anymore, but it's not there anymore. It's no longer open. Tanya Holt, who is our good friend, she was at the very center of all of it. And so much of the core aerialists that came up in LA were in that community. And then, of course, now, 20 years later, it's exploded outwards. And, the Hollywood aerial arts community is kind of dotted all over and sprinkled all over, our community. And I love talking. I actually only took like one or two classes there from Sarah Minoski because I was kind of like, do you know Meredith Ostrowski?
I know of her. I've never met her. Sarah, I've known for a bazillion years. Yeah.
Yeah, she just interviewed me for my own podcast yesterday
Oh,
because she said to me, "Wouldn't it be fun?" Yesterday, meaning for you guys, it'll be a week ago. But she said, "Wouldn't it be fun for me to interview you, take over your podcast for a day to talk about your move to Texas?" Because I was in LA for 24 years, long time, and it's a big transition.
yeah.
But I was kind of at the tail end of all of that. I've trained for 17 years versus 20. Those 3 years made a difference when it came to that community. And our community went through a lot of growing pains through the first 10 years of that because it went from quite small to whole lot bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you were kind of part of that. So JB, I want to kind of like dive into what you were talking about. So you obviously were training with some fantastic people and you were training a lot. And I assume you got pretty good at the skills that you were being trained in. And so was that, when you talk about the confusion in your own heart about like if you're an aerialist, you're obviously like physically doing all the things probably well.
Yeah. I mean, I guess people have different standards for that. And I didn't see I'm not trying to put myself down. I was very content with what I was doing and my progress and all of that. But I did see, like a big gap between my level and the level of my coaches.
Okay.
A gap isn't even a good word. Like it was another world to me. It was like I'm doing this and they do this.
What did they say to you? Like the Terry Beemans of the world and the Tanya Holtz of the world, what were they saying to you about what they saw? I'm just curious.
They were very supportive, complimentary people. I don't think I didn't really ask for feedback. Like, can you tell me if I'm ready for an audition or, I wasn't asking for anything like that. I wasn't looking for that from them. So, the feedback that I would get that, just what people would just say to me, was that I was strong. That was kind of the thing I heard the most was that I'm very strong. There was so many other things that I wasn't. There's really incredible aerialists that I'm working with. I mean, I'm
yeah. Oh, yeah. Some of the best. Yeah.
I mean, I'm just not seeing myself, as their peer. It wasn't, they're just I'm learning from them. And I'm, so lucky to be able to learn from them. And that's kind of what I was thinking. I wasn't really thinking about like standing alongside them.
Okay, so let me give you this to chew on and see what you think, okay? So I trained, when I was starting, I trained with Rachel Bowman, Sarah Monofsky, Ivana Way. I don't know if you know Ivana, who's a beast. I always said to her, "Can you be my stunt double, Ivana?" And she would laugh. I was like, I just have to cut some bangs, and we're exactly the same, except you're so much stronger than me. Christine Peace, Kat Emery, who's now at the Loft teaching. Let me just like Mare was there, of course. These are the bitches that I train with, and I felt Tracy Shibata, who didn't really go the aerial circus route, she went the aerial dance route, and she's with Pink. These are the people who I trained with, and I say all the time because I am insecure about it, but I've come to a place where I've kind of accepted my body that it doesn't put on muscle easily. For example, I just had a training session the other day and I woke up 2 days later and I'm sore, like a sore where you're like, oh, I must have really done something, because it's hard to create that true soreness when you're in the rhythm of your training generally. And I have to do a lot of maintenance so that I don't get injured after I get that sore. Like it doesn't just like, my body doesn't just like happily build muscle. Like I have to do so much work around it. And it took me so long to figure that out. So I would like build a little strength, get injured, come back to it, that strength would be gone. So I train with these really strong women, physically strong, emotionally and mentally, but physically strong women. And it took me so long to like realize that strength, one element doesn't make an aerialist. It's probably like 5, 6, 7 elements. And my strong elements, you know, like Erica Lentz, for example, would tell me, she's a gymnast. She's like, you have more grace in your pinky finger than I can manufacture my whole life. That's the way she saw it.
Yeah.
Because she was a gymnast and she can like do a bazillion no leg climbs, but like doing what I call a bullshit arm. Joe Pinzone used to call it a bullshit arm, where it's not for a rap, any technical, it's just a dance. We call it a bullshit arm. I can bullshit arm my life away and make it look like something, and I'm not necessarily doing anything. And so that is a skill that I hone and put a lot of my time and energy into. And then I try to get my weaknesses to kind of meet the bottom of my strengths. And it took me a while to realize that my strengths were someone else's weakness, and they would be working their whole life. And they would be working their whole life to get even close to mine on that. And so I actually grew a lot when I didn't train with those people, because it's like, it didn't allow me to think of my strengths as, you know what I'm saying? The way that I should be. And it took me a while to realize what these levels are. And for me, at least, to call myself proudly and confidently an aerialist, even if today I couldn't pass the Cirque du Soleil strength test. I know that. And, you know, my friends, a lot of people who've been on this podcast, you know, Amanda Ritchie, she was Dirty Diana in MJ1. She was Zumanity's Straps bitch for so long. We are very good friends, and I don't consider myself lesser or more than her because of those gigs, which technically, level-wise, she was way above me, you know? But I don't see it that way because I guess I just don't see it that way. So what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think that for sure, people have different qualities and different strengths and all of that. And there's, you know, something unique and special about each person. But I just, I think that I wasn't comfortable seeing myself at a level, at like a professional level, or, I mean, there's a whole, okay, I should finish that sentence. I just wasn't comfortable seeing myself there, maybe because I wasn't really happy with like what I was creating. Not necessarily not happy, but like I wasn't satisfied. I wanted to make it better. So I guess when something isn't at a level that I'm satisfied with, I think then I'm working towards that. And so I was just busy working towards that.
Yeah.
But I also wasn't really, you know, there was nothing strategic, or I wasn't planning anything. I mean, I had 2 kids, so I was just doing my best. And, you know, there's a there's another thing that I've got going for me or against me. So when I started doing aerial, I just kind of got some thing in my head. I have no idea why, but I thought I wanted to take trapeze, and so I went and I found trapeze class, but but before the trapeze class, there was a rope class. So I took the rope class, and then I took the trapeze class, and then there was a tissue class. And so I took the tissue class, and then I took the static trapeze class, and then I was just taking all of it. So I don't know why. I just was doing that. So I didn't come to it thinking I want to perform or I want to coach, or I wasn't thinking about anything. So I was learning all of this stuff, and I have a thing where I am extremely stage fright. And
really? Oh, please tell.
so I didn't even see all of these things as things that one performs. They were just um they were just another physical thing, I guess. I mean, I just wasn't really exploring that. And it wasn't really like in my face for a really long time. I mean, the place in Hollywood where I started was a club on on the weekends. It turned into a club. And I knew that, Tanya and some other people performed Atmosphere at this club, or but I maybe more than Atmosphere. I also didn't really go to clubs, so I didn't really see that stuff going on. Um, but I knew that was happening. But I I was doing something else. So I didn't really think about it. I just went back for my class. Um, and it took a long time for me to realize that like this is so much of this is to perform, and what am I doing, and why am I doing this to myself, because it's like torture, putting myself in in that discomfort, and or having to avoid it makes it a negative, which I really didn't like I'm enjoying doing this, and now suddenly having to like say no to the student showcase, um that sucks. Like I don't want to say no, I just don't want to be asked, period.
So interesting. Oh my God.
And then people started teaching. My classmates were my first one of, Terry Beeman was in my class. Like what? um, Sarah was in my class, but they obviously had like a lot of experience in
You're saying they were peers in your class. They were students as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they had experience, I imagine, teaching. They're dancers, and I'm sure they did a lot of things professionally that I didn't have that kind of experience with. So I mean that, but they were in my class. So watching people really grow out of being my classmate was also interesting. But I also saw that they're at a place that I am not at, and how lucky I am to be here with them. And now they get to be my teacher. And that is a really cool transition also. And I was fine with that. I don't, they're incredible. And I was just felt lucky to be able to experience them in all these, roles. And I didn't think of myself. So I guess when like other classmates that I felt like were not at didn't have that kind of experience behind them, when they started teaching, then I started to have a lot of opinions that I kept to myself about teaching, and like, what is that? Who's ready to teach? And which is a huge subject. And it just keeps getting bigger and bigger because there's more and more teachers that are, at different levels of being able to teach. And I've kind of changed my mind even about how I feel about that through the years. And it's nothing that I really kept most of my thoughts to myself about this. Because I just wasn't there. I had no need to like express any kind of negativity towards any.
Okay, JB, I need to jump in. I'm itching to jump in. This is so nerdy for me, this talk. So it must be odd, maybe, in the small LA bubble that I had lived in for so long, to have trained that long at Hollywood Aerial Arts with those people. And it's weird because out of every studio in the entire world, there's probably a higher percentage of people coming out of that studio who've become professionals than anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, except for maybe the Montreal school, right? Mm-hmm. Like if you went to Hollywood Aerial Arts and you trained and you didn't just drop in, like Carrie Wee makes an assumption that you're professional. And that I would probably be right like 90% of the time, right? Am I right?
Yeah, I guess. I mean,
so to come out of that school and not to consider yourself that's probably why you're kind of, I want to say this gently, kind of effed in the head about it.
I mean, yeah,
sorry. I mean, that's just
that's
what
okay. That's okay. Yeah. I mean, maybe it's not unlike, other qualities about me. So yeah, I don't know why I'm not comfortable. I mean, now I'm fine with it. Like now I feel like I've explored it enough. I have enough experience having these ideas in my mind in different ways and like changing my mind. So I guess.
Well, how has it changed? And then also, I want to say before, like as a precursor to that, I do believe that there used to be a culture in LA that unless you were like these bullet points, you were not either good enough or something enough to be called an aerialist or a teacher. I believe that culture was in our city and is no longer so much. Uh-huh. Would you agree or not agree?
I mean, I guess I don't know. I really. I kind of lived in a cave about this stuff, I think. I didn't have social media until like the pandemic or like 2019. Right. So I just didn't get mixed up in all of that. There weren't a lot of people that had kids. And I don't know. I was just, that's not where my head was. So I just stayed out of it. I was really not. If there was any drama happening in LA and the aerial scene, I wasn't a part of the drama. I might have known everybody, but I was not a part of that. I was at home with my kids.
Yeah. I mean, at the loft today, if you would take a percentage of the students that walk in to take class of who will become professional, it's probably a very small percentage. Actually, because that's not their goal. They have regular jobs. Like that's not necessarily what they're there for. And so yeah, with a culture so different from that, I can understand why. I mean, it was just a very, very interesting time. I remember when I first started training 17 years ago, Christine Van Loo was probably the one, like she had the entire LA market. She had every gig. Every single gig. I remember years ago what it felt like, especially as a commercial dancer that wanted to train aerial. There was kind of a hating on us situation happening there. And it was really strong, actually. Like the vibes were very strong. Mm-hmm. So I feel like all of this makes sense to me. It's so different now. But it used to be tighter. The whole spiral of the center of our aerial community there used to be so tight.
Yeah.
And it had to open, and it had to have some growing pains as it went. Can I ask you, how has your view on teaching changed? You said it changed.
I would see people learning tissue, my classmates, and then poof, they were teaching. I don't know after how long, but teaching when I felt like, wait, I would think, why do you think you can teach? Because I don't. So why do you? I don't understand that kind of confidence to think that you can teach, because I didn't have that kind of confidence. And sometimes I felt like I knew more than someone else who started teaching. And I didn't really understand how it is that they felt that they were, ready for that. What's changed is I understand that teaching is its own thing, no matter what you're teaching. That's another skill entirely, that some people are brilliant at and some aren't. Aside from their knowledge of the material itself, just the ability to teach and coach is its own. Like maybe you have something to give, like maybe someone who just, like if we're going to talk about levels, say like if you've just really like mastered level 1, like maybe that is a good thing to teach. Maybe you are going to be really, maybe you're going to have some value in teaching that over someone who's just like so far, away from that. Your learning experience, if you just have learned it, maybe you're closer, more connected to what someone who's also just learning it feels. Safety wise, I'm not sure that covers everything. Like with safety, there's like problems, I think, with that. But like if I'm learning, like I've been training single coil rolls for a couple of years, and I wouldn't think for a second that I would ever go to like teach that formally. Like I'm going to do a single coil workshop, which is crazy. I would never think to do that because I feel like I still have so much to learn about it. But when I'm showing friends how to do it, I'm think, wow, like I actually have a lot of ability to show them these, tricks and tips that I've learned that I am currently learning. It's so fresh on me. So I guess that's kind of how my opinions on teaching have changed. Teaching as a skill in itself, and then just like being closer to the experience of learning something.
My perspective on it now, after however many years of teaching, is kind of parallel to how I see performers. There's the Amanda Ritchies, and then there's me, and then there's people who have just done a couple showcases. There's all these different levels of performers. And then I also see there's all different types of levels as teachers. Mm-hmm. And I do I train teachers sometimes. And I do feel like everyone needs to start somewhere. So in LA, I see that there's some teachers who are like picking up some subclasses here and there, or they're teaching at studios that are not necessarily the place that I was at. And I was like, oh, that's great for them because they're going to get some years under their belt. They're going to get experience of working with mixed levels and having to deal with like seeing 6 people in the air at the same time. Like that is something that takes so long to me to get good at, like to have the eyeball to see like 3 different problems at the same time. And then to address it, in good time. I think I've been teaching for like 13 years, 14 years, aerial. Mm-hmm. Before that, dancing. And like, I was like, I'm just so glad that somebody gave me an opportunity at the beginning, because I would never have been able to work up to where I'm at. And then now, just personally, I'm just glad take what I learned and like teach it to other teachers so that they maybe don't have to take as long as I did to be able to deal with multiple levels and the safety things that, oh my God, one time, JB, I was teaching on a Friday night and I was sitting on the floor. I had 4 people in the air and I look up and the whole building is swaying. Fucking earthquake.
Oh. and people are on their.
Yeah, and they can't feel it because they're probably swaying anyway.
Oh, wow. That's
slightly. Yeah. You know, and I'm like, okay, well, now I can put that in my tool belt as something that I've dealt with as a teacher. You know, it's like, especially, I mean, some people, hopefully many people never have to deal with that as a teacher because that's California.
Yeah, yeah.
So listeners, we actually talked for a long time and I kind of stopped it abruptly because we ended up doing basically 2 episodes. And
when Maya was pregnant.
Yes, I think they remember because I talk about it all the time. So next week you're going to have JB talk all about I Love Climbs and where her idea came from and how she's inspired by it, etc. So look forward to that. Also, just want to let you guys know that she teaches privates. She has space available for trainings at her Venice, California location. And she's available for I Love Climb workshops if you are interested at your studio to have her there. My friends, thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you so much. If you'd like to be on the podcast, just send me a DM or email me. Carrie at wrapyourheadaroundsilks.com. This is for you guys. It's for the worldwide community. So if you have a story that you'd love to share, please reach out. I'd love to have you as a virtual student. So if you go to the show notes, there's links for all of my online resources, free mini course, comprehensive beginner to intermediate, and aero rehab as well. I'd love to have you guys there. And check out Greener Grass. It's the podcast that I do with Kelly McVeigh. And we talk about so many things that you might care about. And then we also just gab. We have so much fun. Please leave me a 5-star rating and review. It makes such a huge difference. So I would appreciate that with all of my heart. And thank you so much for tuning in and listening. Over and out. This is Carrie with Wrap Your Head Around Silks. This is the Expecting Artist.